This is ABC 7 Los Angeles. Now, Mark Brown, Michelle Tuzzi, and Dallas Raines as Eyewitness News continues.
I can't understand how somebody can walk into your house and take all your personal possessions.
87 years old, Helen Jones thought she'd socked away a nest egg that would last a lifetime. But many say she's the victim of a growing unregulated industry that sometimes preys on seniors. Welcome back. I'm Michelle Tuzzi.
I'm Mark Brown. This is Eyewitness News at 4:30. Private, for-profit conservators are supposed to be the guardians of last resort. They are supposed to protect the elderly from predators and neglect. But right now, California regulates guide dog trainers and hairdressers more than the people entrusted with our most frail and vulnerable adults. Eyewitness News reporter Adrienne Alpert is here now with more on an alarming story.
Mark and Michelle, action today is being taken. That's the good news. It's an issue that moved to the forefront when 87-year-old Helen Jones turned up on the front page of the Sunday LA Times back in November. Her story is heartbreaking. Helen saved obsessively, working at one point as a real-life Rosie the Riveter. Now, Helen says, $200,000 of her nest egg has been spent without her knowledge or consent.
I don't trust anybody anymore.
Helen Jones was caught in the tangled web of California's conservatorship system 3 years ago.
I was asleep and they tapped me on the shoulder and said, sign this.
Helen thought she was signing up for CARE. That's a reduced-rate utility program by Southern California Edison. Instead, she signed away control of her life and her finances to This Care, which is a for-profit conservatorship company run by Melody Scott.
I really, really respect Helen's frustration.
Scott says she only wants to help the elderly Yucaipa woman, but Helen just wants to be left alone.
The whole system is a mess, so I don't know what to do.
A child of the Depression, Helen prides herself on being frugal. She scavenged for coal as a child and worked for decades, driving rivets into World War II planes and threading bristles into nail polish brushes. Helen still owns the sweater in this photograph.
That's the sweater.
All that scrimping and saving allowed Helen to put away a nest egg of $560,000. $200,000 of it has been spent since a judge granted Melody Scott emergency conservatorship in 2002 without Helen's knowledge.
They were entitled to take everything that belongs to me. My money, my bank accounts, my life insurance, my annuity, my investments.
It pains Helen to see where her hard-earned money is going. Line by line, she disputes the expenses, including $100 a month spent on landscaping.
There's no landscaping. I had a rock lawn. She thinks that she should get paid every time she lifts up the phone or she writes a check.
But Scott defends her practice and the profession as a whole.
It's absolutely thankless.
Melody Scott says Helen is paranoid, mentally ill, and at times abusive.
She just picked things up and hit the caregiver, which is why she was not allowed to use her phone anymore, because she hit a caregiver up the side of the head with her telephone.
Scott says Helen's health and well-being were at risk when she took her case on. She says Helen had withdrawn huge sums of money from her bank account and was picked up by sheriff's deputies wandering the streets of Yucaipa in a confused state. She says much of that $200,000 has gone toward round-the-clock care for Helen and much-needed upgrades to her tiny home.
I would be heartbroken to see what would happen if we weren't there.
Helen's fight to remove Melody Scott as her conservator drew widespread attention in a series of articles by the LA Times that found systematic abuse in the booming private, for-profit conservatorship industry.
These many examples of abuse show a system that is out of control.
Today at the state capitol, a bill that would provide reforms was introduced. The Omnibus Conservatorship Reform Act will require that conservators be licensed and regulated, provide for an ombudsman to investigate alleged abuses by conservators, and increase funding for the county public guardian, a chronically underfunded agency, which is why the for-profit industry has grown.
So what this bill is designed to do is to try to make sure that our frailest seniors aren't taken advantage of.
As for Helen,
I wanted to be left alone.
A trial date is set for April, where Helen will move forward with her fight against Melody Scott.
She was out looking for people who are frail and helpless and thought, well, there's an easy mark, let's go get her.
Melody Scott has agreed to step down as conservative Helen Jones if a suitable replacement is found. A distant relative who recently learned of Helen's plight has stepped in, tentatively agreed to become Jones' conservator, but a judge will have to make that final decision.
It's a big problem. I have a relative who's affected by this, whose estate is in the hands of a conservator. It's been pretty much run into the ground. So
many of us have that plight, and we face it if it's not here on us already.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks,
Adrian, thanks.